Wife of 16 years has basically ghosted us for the last 3 days. Pretty lost with my current situation. Looking for any sort of insight. Wife, 39 female, and I, 40 male, have been married for 16 years, as mentioned. We have 3 daughters, 15, 13, 11. We're high school sweethearts, been together for about 22 years now. I have limited information, but here's what I know. 3 days ago, my wife returned home from work. She had to work the following day. She seemed frantic and emotional, hastily packed an overnight bag and left. I only became aware of this because our oldest daughter was at home and witnessed the situation. Despite attempting to talk to her, my wife was crying, distraught, and remained silent. She mentioned she was almost in a panic. Despite our attempts to reach out through texts and calls, she hasn't responded. I reached out to her parents, and they assured us that she's safe with them, asking for patience and understanding. Beyond that, I contacted her sister, brother, and a close work friend. Her brother claimed he had no information, and her work friend mentioned she was at work in the morning but gone by lunch 3 days ago. That's all she knew. That's it. 3 days now. No contact from my wife, not even with the kids. Nothing. No one is telling us anything. And here I am with my 3 girls, trying to manage without her. Kids keep asking me what's going on, asking what happened with mom, and all I can say is that she's at grandma and grandpa, and we're supposed to be patient and understanding. I have an overwhelming urge to just pack up the kids quick and drive over there without warning. It's only 3 hours away, and sitting here in limbo is awful. The kids think we had a huge fight and are divorcing, but that's farthest from the truth. We never fight. The kids know this. I don't know what's going on, but can someone provide some clarity? From a logical perspective, in my current emotional state, I find myself caught in a whirlwind of thoughts as I navigate everything without her. If someone passed away, wouldn't your spouse's family be the first people you'd inform? Perhaps some past trauma has resurfaced, yet if it were me, my wife would be the first person I'd turn to for support. At the moment, we're left with a void of information. Nothing makes sense, I don't know what to do, and I just sit here in limbo with the girls. We all know nothing, and no one is telling us anything, and it has me worried, scared, angry, etc. Just about any emotion one can feel in this situation. Can anyone come up with something reasonable? Why would you ghost your family like this? OP provided an update confirming that everyone was correct about the affair. I'll share what I know and leave it at that. My father-in-law didn't call me last night, so eventually I contacted the police for a wellness check, as many of you suggested. This action led to a storm of issues that I won't delve into, but my wife has been having an affair for at least 2 years now, likely longer. Everyone was correct. The other man apparently had a heart attack on Tuesday and eventually passed away that night. For certain, my mother-in-law, and it sounds like probably my sister-in-law, have been knowing about it and have been covering for her. Still no contact from my wife, not to me or the girls. Trying to keep this from them for now. Honestly, no idea what to do from here. That's all I know, and that's enough to just about be the end of me. Thank you for all of the help, advice. Not sure how to move on from this news, but that's it. If you pray, please pray for me and us. Now to the second update. I've been recommended this by a few others, just joined and have been reading through many posts when I have time, mostly at night when the chaos of the day ends, and then, of course, the brain takes over and I go through these fits of depression, then I get hit with raging anger, then both at the same time. Sleeping is nearly impossible. I aimlessly navigate through the day in a zombie-like state, attempting to familiarize myself with various acronyms. I suppose my personal D-Day occurred on Friday when I discovered that my wife, whom I initially believed to be involved in a 2-year affair, may have been engaged in infidelity for an even longer duration. The person she cheated with, referred to as the AP, was someone she had known for quite some time. The revelation came to light, tragically, when he passed away from a heart attack. I'm still digging.
For information with the help of my oldest daughter. Lots of things I'm not ready to post about. Really had no plans of continuing to make posts about my situation, but so many people have offered so much help, advice. It's almost become therapeutic. It hurts to know so many other people are suffering through this kind of pain. For that, I'm so sorry. I met with 2 different lawyers, both yesterday and today, to discuss options. Contacted several places regarding therapy too, but there are very long waits where I live. Trying to adhere to many suggestions others have made. Avoid alcohol, but I don't drink and never have. Self-care, workout, etc. I'd consider myself in very good shape for someone my age, but hard to find the energy to work out right now. I anticipate that some of you may inquire about the specifics, the whos, whats, whens, and whys. However, please bear with me as I'm not yet prepared to delve into those details. Each day feels like a new explosion, and at this point I'm seeking advice on just one aspect so that I can perhaps find some solace and get a bit of sleep. The title of my post encapsulates my sentiments. My wife was everything to me. My best friend since high school, the mother of my 3 beautiful daughters. I mean, we have inside jokes and secret handshakes. Man, it's all gone. Everything is just all gone. I think about all of our years together, every milestone, every laugh, and now I just get so very depressed. It's crippling. It's as though it all meant nothing to her, and now my future will be without her. And then, of course, the how could use creep in, and I get overcome with this unquenchable, raging anger. I scream into my pillow and punch the mattress until my arms cramp. It's a horrible cycle. I only sleep out of pure exhaustion. Then I'll wake up suddenly, and the mind games begin anew. Any energy I do have, I dedicate to my girls, who've been trying to take care of me like they're the parents. It's unjust to put them through this. Could you share your experiences with sleep after discovering the affair? How did you cope with the deafening silence and the emptiness of the night left alone with your thoughts? I've resolved to make my daughter's sleep needs my top priority throughout this ordeal, but I'm struggling. I'm hopeful that you can offer some guidance. Thank you, everyone. Third update. Apologies for still being relatively new to Reddit. Not sure how much of my situation I'm supposed to repeat or reiterate, but it's been just over a week since my D-Day, and since that day I've learned my wife's affair was well over 4 years. Still no exact timeline. Very likely it started emotional and then turned physical. I'm curious how the pandemic and lockdowns played into this too. Questions I may or may not get the answers to anyway. Yesterday my in-laws made an impromptu visit to see their grandkids. Wayward wife has been crashing at their house since this nightmare began, which is complete and total BS, of course, as they spent all of 15 minutes greeting the girls, wife and I have 3 daughters, before asking to speak with me in private. It was a long conversation, as you might expect, one which I don't want to dialogue in its entirety on this post, but long story short, my wife wants to come home, but she fears the backlash of her actions and is afraid to face what she's done. Her parents also dug very hard trying to determine whether or not I planned on divorcing and spent considerable time trying to sway me toward forgiving my wife and trying to rebuild the marriage. They appeared visibly ashamed and embarrassed, yet it was evident that they desired my wife to leave their home. The exchange was conducted in a civil and respectful manner. I must confess I misled them by stating uncertainty about my future plans, as my intention is to proceed with a divorce. However, I fear that revealing my decision might hinder my chances of extracting the truth from my wife. While I acknowledge I may never fully uncover the truth, I am determined to have her sit before me and provide an explanation if possible. Over 17 years of marriage and being together since high school, 3 kids, countless memories, and all that we've shared, I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. I also want my kids to know that I gave her a chance to explain herself, that I gave her the opportunity to apologize and handle things with dignity.
Together as mature adults, I keep trying to choose the path that will set the best example for my kids. I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Legally, I cannot keep my wife out of our home. Lawyer made that very clear. So if my wife is going to come home, I can't stop her, though I absolutely do not want this right now. My girls and I have actually started to settle into a nice routine, so I made a demand that I felt would be unachievable for a while. I said my wife could come home if, when she sat down with me in person, looked me in the eyes and revealed everything about her affair, start to finish, answering any and all of my questions without hesitation or further deceit, and then sat down with the girls and apologized in person and answered their questions too, considering they are already aware. I believe it's only fair. Legally, she has the right to return home at any time and isn't obligated to comply with any demands. However, if she's hesitant to face us, perhaps I could leverage that to our advantage. I want to clarify that I'm not aiming to be devious or deceptive. I simply want to postpone cohabitation if possible, as I'm not ready for it at this point. There is a mandatory 90-day waiting period in our state before divorce can happen anyway. Her coming home is inevitable. We'll both have to go back to work eventually, and life will go on regardless of this mess. I just like to prolong it so I can plan and get into a better state of mental and emotional health. My wife has been texting the girls, and she claims that she doesn't want a divorce and keeps apologizing to them repeatedly. They've shown me the texts, asks about me daily, and the reality of what she's done to all of us is hitting her hard, especially in the last couple of days. How do I manage this? Was my demand foolish? It sounds like my wife is going to be coming home sooner than later anyway. I feel confident in my path forward. Right now, I'm not rattled by this, as I knew it would happen eventually. I just want to make the best decision for my daughters and then myself as we move forward. Thank you to each and every one that's been offering encouragement, advice, and support. Fourth update. This will be rather anticlimactic, but apologies for the length. I just need to get this out. I had a terrible weekend. However, my wife returned home yesterday after a considerable buildup throughout the week. In the past, I would greet her with a hug and a kiss the moment she entered the doorway, but this time, an incredibly uncomfortable awkwardness hung between us. Although she attempted to initiate a hug before saying anything, I turned away as if nothing had happened. The situation felt surreal. After she settled, I naturally asked her to tell me everything, and she again reiterated that she's not ready. We had spoken on the phone earlier in the week, same result. I insisted that the only condition of her moving back home was that she loved them enough to explain why she's been absent for going on 3 weeks, but she just repeated that she just wasn't ready for that. It took a lot to not scream at her, but I took a couple of deep breaths and tried to compose myself. I failed, and after the first of many very long pauses, I just blurted out that she'd been having an affair for over 4 years with this coworker of hers, planned on leaving me for this other man, ghosted her whole family, and now walks through the door without fulfilling the one single condition that I had asked for and that I wanted a divorce. I guess this is when things got weird. Her body language and facial expression made it obvious she had no idea how much I knew about her affair. She glanced at me, wide-eyed, then just stood there in the kitchen, staring at the floor, said nothing, just stoic. I was expecting anything, everything but this. Maybe an emotional tirade, maybe a teary confession. I anticipated various reactions when my wife returned, perhaps screaming, yelling, or placing blame on me for the affair. I was ready for a serious tone, thinking we could sit down and talk things through. However, what unfolded was entirely different. We stood in the kitchen in absolute silence for what felt like 5 minutes. It was the strangest moment I've ever experienced. Neither of us knew what to say, and the awkwardness was palpable. I had read all of your comments, advice on my situation. I even took notes. I sat in front of a mirror and had prepared myself for all possible scenarios.
That this confrontation might present, except this one. So I eventually decided right then and there to map out everything I knew about her affair. Maybe dumb of me, proceeded to tell her everything that I knew, admittedly adding in my own assumptions about several things: how she met her affair partner, her sister's involvement, what went on during COVID, etc. She just stared at the floor the entire time. I got angrier as I went along because she did nothing, but I did everything I could not to raise my voice or get obscene. I finally composed myself. Then there was another lengthy, awkward silence. Then anger switched to sadness at the realization of everything. I then softly asked her what I did to push her away. Did she ever love me, and was her affair partner worth it? She said nothing. Didn't budge, didn't move. Just nothing from her at all. No tears, no apology, no yelling, no explanation. She just stood there with her head down, offering nothing. The pain I felt at that moment was intense. Maybe even worse than D-Day. I found myself staring at her, unsure if I could move. Unfortunately, the situation took a turn for the worse as our daughters had been eavesdropping on the entire encounter. I felt an overwhelming sense of stupidity. realizing that despite my efforts to prioritize our girls and their needs over the past couple of weeks, the unintended consequences had now unfolded. But I got emotional and didn't give a single thought to their whereabouts once I confronted my wife. So our oldest daughter stormed downstairs and lashed out a lot of pent-up anger on her part. My wife quickly just ran upstairs and locked the bedroom door. That's where we're at now. I heard my wife crying most of the night last night until I fell asleep. Only our youngest has tried talking to her. The rest of us have avoided her. If I can get the courage up, I'm going to suggest she stay with her sister until we're able to finalize the divorce. But this is still her home too. It's just going to be miserable if we all have to cohabitate with her. I was wrong about my wife and all of you were correct. I was wrong about all of our years together, wrong about all of the memories, the life-changing moments. I was convinced she'd drop to her knees and beg forgiveness. I was so convinced that she would repent of everything from the last 4 years and unload the truth. Truth to absolve her guilt. This woman literally drove back to a farmer market once when she realized she'd been given $1 too much in change. But we're not worth it to her.
Nights, and returns home on Sunday nights since she works very close to our family home. But a sister is an hour away, if there's no traffic. For the past couple of weeks, it's been this routine of mostly avoidance, as myself and the girls are trying to carry on normally while wayward wife kinda just stays to herself. Though there are casual interactions every evening, except that my oldest daughter and my wayward wife aren't speaking after a couple of bad blow-ups. It's for the best right now. Lately, I've been heeding much of all of your advice along with things I've read. I work very hard on my self-discipline around my wife, and though it takes all my strength and willpower, I have been short and indifferent toward her when we briefly talk, though always polite and respectful, until tonight. Last couple of Fridays, she's come home from work, gotten a few things together, and taken off for her sister's for the weekend before I'm even home from work. But not tonight. She was waiting in the kitchen for me when I got home. I tried to just walk past, but she lightly grabbed me by the hand and asked me if this is how I was going to treat her just because she's not ready to talk to me about her affair, which, by the way, is the very first time she so much as mentioned a single word about her cheating since this exploded nearly a month ago. I made an effort. I genuinely tried to restrain myself and just walk away. However, our daughters weren't at home at that moment, and an overwhelming sense of rage built up within me. Eventually, I couldn't contain it any longer, and I unleashed every vice, pain, hurt, ache, rage, and misery I felt onto her. I honestly can't even quantify how long I went on for. Lost all concept of time. I did raise my voice at times, got a little animated and loud. I just broke down and told her how broken I am, and the agony that I'm in every day. Everything I've been holding back, everything that's been tormenting me.